So here's what you're going to do. You got your files, right? You're going to drag them into your workspace.
Is our buddy not coming?
Jim, I don't know. So I'm going to select all of these and just drag them in, and they all go on their own layer, right? Now what you're going to do is, if you go to your first one here and go to channels, you need to add however many channels you need. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Because these are all mono files. It would be more if you needed stereo. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And all you really need to do is take this one and put this on channel 1. So your one mono track for this one goes on channel 1. Then you go to the second layer, and now because you made all those channels in the workspace, those show up now here.
And you can just assign it.
Yep. So now you can just assign each layer.
Did you make those on the master level?
No, I made them on the first layer. It doesn't matter which layer you make them on. You just one of the layers you have to go in and make all those channels.
Okay.
Okay.
And then
Right.
using the options to.
Yep. And then you're gonna go for there it is, and then 5, 6. Oop, no, 6.
Wait, see if it's might be
His card should work now.
Oh, thank you, sir.
We were just saying we thought your card probably worked by now.
Did you get the tray or swipe?
Huh?
Did you get the tray or swipe card?
I'm sorry.
It should work now. Your card.
Did you swipe card?
Yeah, I was going to get
Yeah.
it. It was inside out.
Make sure you try it today because they said they did it, so it should work now.
Okay.
So there you go. Once you lay it all out, then at that point, even though this layer, has a bunch of dummy channels that you're not using, ultimately when you render this,
It'll render.
it will render it as one interleave file because it uses this channel output to ultimately direct it to the destination. So that will work when you do the render. So that's a little bit easier. Yeah, it seems to be pretty, because you're not forcing it to like copy
Right.
massive amounts of audio back
What
and
about
forth.
that extra channel? Is that just like, does that all those extra channels on that one track, does that take up any space? Or
No, I mean I purely just had to make them, right? I have to define the channels for the workspace in order to be able to route them on the other layers, because otherwise it wouldn't show them to me.
So that's definitely like quicker,
Yeah, I think so.
because you just drag them and just do that, and then just go through and around them. So it's
Mhm.
not copy pasting anymore.
Yep, I think it is better.
Jason, what is the purpose of the master layer?
I'll show you today.
Oh, okay. Great.
It has to do with mastering.
Uh-huh. That was part of my confusion, was when I dropped it at the end, like the word, like the phrase master layer led me to believe that everything should be there.
No,
And I was
you
not-
can't actually put audio on the master layer.
I found that out.
Yeah, the master layer does something else.
Cool.
Okay, so I need to show you guys, just by the way, some of you are aware of this, but some of you probably aren't. To turn stuff in, for this class, most of this stuff is going to be audio files, and you can't email that to me. So you're going to have to upload it to the server. And so that's just to remind everybody, and Jim, you're probably not familiar with this. You can do this over the wireless on campus, or you can, if you are on one of these computers, it'll show up. But you're looking for Walrus. So if you go into the shared thing, you'll see a list of all the shared computers on the network here. And you're looking for Walrus. And then you can connect with your user ID, or I believe sound will work as well. And what you're looking for is this classroom files folder. And in here you'll find a folder for our class called Sound Design Technology. And then I have, for example, a folder for the sample editing assignment. So this is where you'd put so Corey's already got his up there. So you would just put a folder with your name on it for each project and dump it in there, and then I can get to it. If you're on wireless, it works a little bit differently because it won't show up in the file browser. So if you're on the Wi-Fi, you have to do this connect to server thing. So from the Finder, you say go connect to server, and you have to type in AFP : / and then the IP address of Walrus, which is 10.21.10.3.
If we're not on school Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
If you are on school Wi-Fi, you probably have to do it this way. You might be able to do Walrus depending on where the DNS servers are.
Yeah, I've never had to do AFP, all that stuff. I just typed in the number.
Yeah, I mean the AFP thing might be inferred. You may be able to just
If it remembers it, then it's inferred. If it doesn't remember it,
Yeah.
then it'll automatically go to.
so it'll go in, and then at that point you can put in the credentials, sound, or your username and ID, whatever you want to do, and then it'll pull up classroom files, and then you can again get the folder, go to the sample learning assignment, look, Shell and Tracy are already uploading theirs, and you just dump it in there, and then I can get to it and look at it. So if you have trouble with that, let me know, and I'll see what I can do. So sometime today, see if you can upload that multi-channel file. Yeah, so everyone managed to get their multi-channel file? Sort of? Now that I've shown you the easier way, you could maybe try that if you had trouble. Okay, so let me show you. We're going to show you today another thing you can do with Triumph. Triumph is used by some people as a mastering tool, and mastering is like basically after you've already recorded and mixed and edited audio, you then put it through a mastering process, and that's the process by which you try to sort of look at all of these recordings as like this as a whole thing, as a whole album, and how you might get them all to sound approximately the same level, the same loudness, they have the same kind of frequency content, dynamically they're similar, so that if someone sits and listens to this whole thing, they're not like constantly having to like change their volume control and everything track to track. There's also just a lot of processing you can do to try to optimize it for listening environments that are not ideal. So, the listening environment where you mixed it is probably really good. You probably have a quiet room where you have nice near-field monitors, and it sounds great in there, but most people are going to listen to this in their car. So, what sounds good on your little near-field monitors is you're not going to hear all that detail in your car because of all the noise and everything. So mastering often involves, a lot of compression and other processing to try to take all of that detail and get it into a range that could work in a less ideal listening environment. I'm not going to teach you a whole lot about mastering. You can devote a whole career to that, and there are people that do. It's not something. I certainly have no mastering whiz. Yeah, but I do. I know a few little tricks that I can show you. So because Triumph is used sometimes as a mastering tool, it has a lot of tools for doing those kind of processes, but also adding the kind of metadata you would need to tag the files because the mastering is like the last process you do before you ultimately publish the audio to whatever format it's going to be. And this would be either to your CD or the MP3 or the whatever. So Triumph has built-in, professional grades, Redbook CD burning built into it. You can also, as I said, output the DDP file sets I talked about last week or Monday, and it'll also render to lots of other output formats. So it has a lot of features that can also be used for this other thing we're going to do, which is called vinyl restoration. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you how to capture an analog audio source and bring it into the computer. Okay.
What do you call it? Vinyl what?
Vinyl restoration. This is a good way to make like some extra money on the side. There's all kinds of people out there that have like old home movies or old records or recordings of their kids from a long time ago that are on tapes, and the tapes are starting to decay, and they're quite happy to pay somebody to digitize this stuff for them and clean it up and get it back to something that is archivable by today's standards. And it's really not that hard to do. So, shall I show you? All right. Let me see if I can at least pull up the screen on this other computer. Yeah, so you can see it in the video. All right, come on over to the record players here. So I know this is a foreign object to many of you, but it's the record player. Okay.
Why is the CD so bad?
So this is very old technology by today's standards. Although some people still swear by it, right? A lot of people still love this. There are a lot of albums that still get put out on vinyl. A really good vinyl system sounds really good actually. If you know how to keep it maintained and take care of everything, it sounds quite good. And theoretically speaking, at least, analog potentially is capable of sounding better than digital because you don't have any of those the potential for the quantization errors and things like that. So at least in theory, analog could be better than digital. The thing with digital is just more consistent. While analog is theoretically capable of being better, it is horribly inconsistent at being better. Right? So under the perfect circumstances, it's awesome, but the perfect circumstances are very difficult to maintain. So that being said, this is a device used to play these records. So what happens here is, if you look closely, you can kind of see it. It's really like a continuous line that's been etched into this. It just goes on and on and on forever until you get to the middle. And the line is actually, if you were to look at it under a microscope, it would be fascinating. It's like the Grand Canyon in there. Okay, so they've taken the voltage wave that was in the audio, and they've essentially carved that pattern into this vinyl. Okay, and then you have this little needle that sits inside that groove and just sort of rides it. It rides that wave and then recreates that voltage. It's fascinating. So there's some things you need to know though about this. First of all, you want to make sure that the record is clean, because dust and stuff can create noise. And so we have this guy, and this can help you a little bit. You just kind of work your way around here, and you can kind of pick up the dust, and it'll kind of start building up there, and you can kind of just throw it off or blow on or get some air or whatever. You can actually wash things even. Back in the day, there's nothing, water's not going to harm this. It might miss a little sticker, but it's not going to damage the information on it. So get as much of the dust and crud off as you possibly can. Our record collection is rather dusty, so so that's the first thing to do. And then there are two sides to this. Side one, side two, they usually encode information on both sides. In some cases, there might actually be more than one record in a set, so like some of these big operas and stuff, they may not have been able to capture it all into one disc, so they'll...
How much information can one side record?
Well, it depends. Depends on how fast the record has to spin. Right, so there are two options here. This will play a 45 RPM or a 33 RPM. So 45 RPM would spin the thing faster, which means less time.
But you gain
Potentially some fidelity, but negligible amounts. Most of ours are all set at 33 RPM. So I don't know, there's some math probably involved in how much of it you can put on. I don't know what it is. So most you can put on the side at 33 RPM. About 20 minutes or so, I think.
Oh, 20 minutes?
No,
it's not like an
close to 60.
Oh no, I've never got 60. Maybe on both sides. Well, anyway, also
Any record would have, they always have one.
there's one variable here that you also need to be aware of is that what takes up all the space are the low frequencies. Okay, so the low frequencies have to be higher amplitude. And So in order to get more information to fit on there, there is an EQ that is applied to the audio before it's written onto the record. And that EQ dramatically reduces the low frequencies. Like turns them down in amplitude quite a bit, because that means the wave doesn't have to be drawn quite so big. Right? Because the amplitude, higher amplitude would be a bigger wave and therefore a thicker groove. So
then you put a post EQ.
exactly. So it is written onto the record EQ with the low frequency rolled off.
Do they tell you what that is and where that is?
Yes, it's a standard curve. It's called the RIAA curve. Okay, and RIAA is Recording Industry Association of America. Okay, so yeah, somebody there developed and accepted this as a standard EQ when it gets applied. So you just have to apply the inverse of that. The good news is that these particular record players, they have it built in. Okay, so you don't have to do it. But others, you don't. You have to put it in. So, like for example, here's a phono preamplifier, and it has. If you set this switch to the phono setting, that applies the inverse EQ curve as part of that.
Oh, so you have the option of listening to it with no bass.
Yeah, if you want to. And that's why if you have like your like home stereo receivers or something, they have all those rows of RCA inputs, and there's one that's called phono. If you ever tried to plug anything else but record that, it sounds really weird. That's why, because it has the inverse RIA curve applied to it. It also has a preamplifier built into it, because the natural output that comes off of these things is much lower than professional line level. So it has to be preamplified before you can really play it. So that phono input does both of those things. It preamplifies the audio, and it does this massive low frequency boost.
That's awesome.
Which, if you try to put a standard line level signal into that, it's going to clip like crazy, because all that low frequency is going to get distorted. Okay. Okay. So what's cool about these particular record players is there's a little switch on the back of them where it says level select, and your options are line or phono. If you set it's a line, it's what's called sound card output. So it puts it out at line level on the RCAs with the EQ applied and everything, so you're good to go. But if you've got like some like super expensive, nice phono preamplifier that is theoretically better than the one here, then you can flip it to phono and you can use your external preamp, and that's fine too. In your case, just set it to line and it's fine.
So what does the output of one of these things look like?
This one is RCA. So it's just there's RCA dang off the back of it, and I've just patched that into the.
You can get them with any type of.
You can get them with anything. These ones just happen to have RCA. Okay, there's another thing that you've got to know about this. In order for the little needle that sits under here to ride inside of that groove, it has to be weighted a certain way. If there's too much force applied to it, it can damage both the record and the needle, right? If there's not enough pressure applied to it or force applied to it, it won't stay in there, right? It'll drift all around and come out.
You do that.
I'm about to show you. So the first thing you need to know is, before you try to do this, put the little cap on, because otherwise you will destroy the needle in the process of trying to balance it, okay? So, a little hole is where the needle is. Okay, so I'm just going to stick this on here. Just clips on there, okay? And now you can bounce around all you want, and it's not going to mess it up, okay?
For safety net.
Now, there is this thing called tracking force. And I just replaced the needles on these things. So, and they came with the little thing, although it's all in Chinese. Let me see here, she can tell us what it says. But here at the bottom, that 2.5 to 3.5 grams, that's the tracking force that you need to apply to that needle in order for it to be happy, in order for it to happily ride that way.
Well, that's a range.
Yeah. So you want to be within that range, 2.5 to 3.5 grams. If you're within that window, you're good. Okay. So we're going to set it to 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Because then we got wiggle room on either side. Okay.
How do you set it?
So here's how you set it. So there's this little weight, this little
Yeah, it has numbers.
and it's just a heavy thing. okay, and it's threaded. And as you turn it that way, the weight moves back, which would then, if I take it all the way back, the arm just like stays floated up, right? It won't drop down. Yeah, it's just a counterweight. Okay, so if I take it all the way back like that, I mean it's sitting there and it's just riding in here. It's never even going to touch the record. Okay, whereas if I turn it the bar down, now it's laying flat. This is why you want to make sure the cap's on, because as you're going to play with this, it can like smack down and screws it up. Okay, so that's obviously not right. But then neither is that. Okay, so there's this little dial. Okay, and the dial can move independently of the weight. So the dial doesn't actually mean anything. Okay, it's just screen printing. Okay, it only means something once you actually have the weight calibrated correctly. Okay, so what you're going to do is you want to take this out here and you want to adjust this weight until this thing goes level. So you can even just kind of hold this in place. So it's dropping down a little bit. Okay, so you see how it's balanced now? It's sitting level. So I've now balanced the weight. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the little black ring, I'm going to move that without moving the weight. I'm going to move that until the 0 lines up on, there's a little line drawn on the top of this thing. Okay?
And it's 3 from that 0?
Yeah. So you just set the 0 so that it lines up with the little screen printed line on there. And now what you do is now you can take the weight and turn it, and the little dial will move with it.
Is that so? Positive is down and negative is up. Then?
Yeah. So as you move the weight forward, it's going to apply pressure to the front.
Right, but I'm saying the number they gave you was like 3. So like
Yeah.
if the number was negative, which I don't know why it would ever be, it would go up.
Right.
To the difference. Like,
So you want to push it down. So I'm going to dial this to 3 ultimately. Okay, so they're now set to 3. So now if I take this off, it's going to drop down on there. And there's 3 grams of force now being applied to that needle, which is exactly where we want it to be.
is there? How did? Okay, all right. Cool. I was just thinking like if there's so many different records and stuff. Like how do they? Is there like a specific height or with all the different makes and manufacturers? How is that 3 consistent with all?
I don't know. I mean, there are people who really into this.
They're pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Between the specs that were issued by the national.
I think if there are people who get really into vinyl, and they probably tweak their tracking force for every record they play to try to get it exactly, But generally speaking, that's why I'm going to set it to 3, because that's within the range that is good for the needle, and most records are going to be fine with that. There's another thing you need to adjust, which is called the anti-skating. And what's happening is as the needle's kind of, the tone arm, as it kind of drifts here, now the angle of the needle relative to the groove is different, and that's going to have different force that gets applied to it. And if you're not careful, that gets so much that it could actually jump out of the groove. So there's kind of a counter force that gets applied to it with this anti-skating. You basically just want to set that to the same value as we set for the tracking force. So if you want to look up and see that's the same number range it's on. So we'll set that to the same thing, and that will theoretically compensate for that. So now that this is clean, balanced, with the appropriate tracking force and the appropriate anti-skating, you should be ready to go here. Okay? However, before I do anything else, I want you each to show me that you can do that. Because I just replaced the needles on both of these things because they got destroyed by people who thought they understood what I had demonstrated and then did it wrong and then destroyed the needle. So I want you each to do what I just showed you. Who wants to go first? All right. Fix it. With all the caps on and everything, and they're going to screw it.
It's just records are so. What if I have a huge library of records and I'm looking for a specific sound, but I've forgotten the artist who made it? You know how many records I have to go through
I have a
to
lot of them.
find that one song?
You got
Yeah.
vinyl?
I did. Yeah, these are mine. I mean, they were originally my mom's. So I said them. What's that? Which is that's my favorite. And Santana.
Who's?
Santana.
Yes, this is the meeting I grew up in.
I have every.
I have
Years ago.
Live Who.
Oh, Santana.
Yeah, Santana.
Oh, I didn't understand
Oh,
what
sorry.
you said. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know it very well.
I have
Um,
every Kiss vinyl ever.
All the Grateful Dead.
Kiss vinyl? I wouldn't swear that out.
Yeah.
I have every.
I got all of
You
it.
didn't like his?
It's keep it simple, stupid.
There's 3 chords, but it's great. Yeah, Corey.
They were theater majors. It's
Kind of like
like
Jack
two
and
shows.
Yeah.
They weren't quite as. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that goes.
Now you can have that in there. Now you can. Yep.
There are many very popular musicians who were still alive today.
Very good. Okay.
Hey.
Who's next?
Okay.
So, because this is a shared space, and you never know who used this before you,
Always trying to.
it's a good idea to check this, okay? If it's your own and you're the one who ever touches it, you set this once and you forget about it. But you never know who's going to come in here and go, what's this thing? And start turning this stuff, and then
So because I have a record player in my entire life, do they now that it's 2015 have record players that do this for you?
Yes.
oh yeah, I mean you can get
Then
really,
you press a button and the arm moves.
That's what I figured.
yeah, you can get very sophisticated.
I've never purchased one. I have my mom's, but hers is from 1975. So.
You can get really fancy ones these days. You can even get ones that have you can actually, instead of doing it this way, you can actually get a weight you can set on the turntable and drop the tone arm onto that, and then just move your weight until it says the tracking force you want.
Wow.
Right? It's just much easier than what we're doing.
I mean, I
So
like this one. I
one
think
of the
it makes
secrets
more
here
sense.
is to kind of keep this from drifting from it.
Ah.
I'm just going to put that in place. You see this
My mom had hers from when she was in high school. So I guess not 75, more like.
Tries to come down.
And then you have to go. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah.
There, now you're going to set it.
Oh,
There.
Basically just
And then make sure that this is set. Yep. Okay, who's next?
What'd you say?
I was tagging you.
Edward.
I don't think I was bothered.
I'll get them later.
What'd you say?
So these are brand new needles. They should sound very good.
What are you still purchasing?
It was a trick. We had to look for a little bit. We did. In the end, we found there's this place in New York, Pro Audio Star,
Yep.
that sells a lot of DJ kind of equipment and stuff. And they had them.
That's for the older record.
They had them for $15 a piece. Steel.
All
the other-
There used to be like 100.
Oh yeah, a lot of the
Probably,
other places that we found the
It's an
same
old
one. It was like $60 to $80.
You have to like go to the back
These guys
door
must
and
have
knock
got
in
a
specific ways.
Stash of them.
Economic code.
And then, like,
So back in the day
you
when
go down
DJs
three flights
actually
of
scratched
stairs,
records, were they
and then
just
there's a huge
mutilating
hole.
records?
It's like B&H back in the day. They just moved it underneath the
Exactly.
ground. And then
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain amount of that. That's
No,
gonna
we have that. We have an old, like,
I just
older
don't
record.
understand.
Okay. So
And we have
that's double. Now you can kind of see.
You what?
they don't repair records.
The Mo Production Venture is really nice record player. Like it's massive tune or some shit. I don't know. Maybe it was I don't know. He brought me over for Super Bowl one day. One of his Super Bowl parties hooked it up and was like, Corey, check this out. You'll appreciate it. And I was like, okay, cool.
One of the donors for Western Lighthouse has a phonograph in their house. Super
works?
old, yeah. Because they were playing music from it for the wedding that they were hosting. I was like, is this what people want too much money to do? They just
Get old
donate
things.
millions of dollars to really small theater companies.
Okay. Next.
I don't know. Oh, right.
Oh, here's the old ones if you want to look at the old ones.
How often do you have to replace needles if you treat them nicely?
Well, it should last a while.
What are they made out of?
Because
Are they made out of any specific metal or do they just sound pretty sure?
So what'll happen eventually is they'll start sounding crappy, and then they'll start jumping the groove. So you just kind of stick your thumb on there, and then it'll stop.
Very expensive weapon.
Actually, one of the last time I'm gonna place needle on this, I don't know how it's a record player and master all of that. I should call
Now you're in the
either Sean or John and get one of their vinyls.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
I will send vinyl or this guy vinyl. They both exist now.
yeah, do that. Yep.
How did I get those?
So set the dial to 0 now.
Give vinyls pressed to anyone.
That's probably Jason question.
I don't even know how they work. I'm saying, who does that shit?
I can ask John.
Like, it's not a bad like taking the CD and then changing the spins in. I've actually
Double
never
check.
had
That's
like
the same thing.
liquid that's in onto the.
There you go. All right, Jim, you're up. I suspect you know how to do this.
Oh, yeah, I still have it. I still use mine.
You're your chair. You're not special.
Oh, wait, I got a break.
It's all record there, you know.
Oh, is this that thing that you bought that you broke? Never was soldering?
Well, I broke one of the wires that connects it up to the tunnel. I think I'll have to fix it.
So what does this do? Is this the needle?
Yeah, so that little thing on the bottom is the needle that actually sits on the record. You can see it. Move it up and down.
That's the needle.
So I found
This
this.
isn't even level head. This is nothing like I was thinking I was like
Oh,
straight needle, but I was like,
Then yeah, you can take it. You can go pretty
I
fast.
just had it so amazing. There's literally like millions
That's the one.
difference
Well, that's
on
fine.
the record. That
Oh,
has
but-
different sounds.
How do you think that would,
Yeah, you
I
can
do this on my own.
how do you record like, okay, so say I have a piano and I have a guitar that are they're each just hit the like A or some shit. Like what makes the tonality nuance? Like how do you know what I mean? Like how does it get that sound? I guess. Like and how I just think that's interesting. Like when you convert it to voltage and then that actually makes the difference. You know what I'm saying? Because like a guitar and a piano would have their own instrument sounds,
Right.
even though it's the same note.
Mm.
But there's some way that it's like
Okay,
converted
so the
down
line
that
there.
gives
Oh,
it
that-
that same sound back. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Does
that's
make
why a
sense
lot
to
of
me.
people, that's why so many a lot of musicians have. Actually, no, it was sound expensive, and he didn't make very much money on it at all. He was too busy trying to.
There you go. Excellent. You did it. You did it, everybody. All right. Now I'm going to do due diligence here and check Jim's work, so I make sure that I've got it the way I like it.
Yeah, sure.
so now what you're going to do is that the outputs of these are patched into the tails. I've got them set here on the 4-track out 3 and 4 on the patch bay, on this one and that one. Okay. So ultimately, you patch that into the 2 inputs of the Zoom TAC. Right. 2 4 inputs. Okay. Then you're gonna go to the computer here. And when this comes up, you're going to open Logic. And if you start getting the pop-ups about the plugins, the Waves plugins, remember you got to get one of these blue dongles off the wall.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay. Plug this into the computer so it'll authorize the plugins.
Why does it always forget them?
Doesn't always forget them. Just sometimes forget them.
Why does it?
There's a preference file somewhere that it sometimes gets reset or lost. Okay, so I'm going to get an empty project here. You have to do this part in Logic because Triumph doesn't record. It's only a. So I'm going to set this. I'm going to make one new audio track, and I'm going to set the input to be input 1 and 2, so it's a stereo track. Okay. And this my input device is the Zoom. So I'll create that. Go. So now I can record enable this, set the input. I'll go ahead and save the project. And if you want to save yourself just a little bit of time when you do this, make sure you click this option to organize it as a folder. Then you ultimately won't have to bounce. Okay. And then you would have your hard drive that you would plug in so that you can do this. For now, I'm going to put it on in the shared folder. That's the actual drive. All it is. So I've got the Music Man album here. So I'm going to save that. Now it'll actually record to the disk. If you don't save that project first, where's it going to record it to?
Your hard drive on the computer.
Yeah, well, your home folder. And in this case, if you log in with your network account, your home folder is on the server on the other side of the room, not actually on this computer. So it's going to pump all that audio over the network to the other machine. If you're logged into the local sound account, it'll put it on the hard drive. But that's the other reason why you need to make sure you're plugging in your own hard drive and saving there, because everything you do right now is saved to the network. And the network is not very good pipe. So that's good to go. So now we can fire this thing up. So there's 2 switches here. There's a switch up in the bottom or the top left that actually powers on the device. And then you want to make sure that your speed is set to 33 RPMs. So down is 45, up is 33. And then you want to hit the start button, and that just starts the thing turning. You also want to check your pitch controls. This essentially just controls the fine control of the speed of the turntable. They have little D10s at 12 o'clock, so just start there. One reason you ever want to change that is if for some reason the record was recorded at some bizarre speed or something, and you need to compensate for that to get what you're looking for. But usually, all right. So now that we've got that, we're going to take the little cap off here. Just going to set it aside. This is the tricky part. So you're going to take the little, hold this little arm here, and you want to very carefully, gently drop the needle on this outer ring. You can kind of see there's a little, on a 1/4 inch ring on the outside of it before the grooves get really close together. And you can kind of just very gently set it on there, and it'll lock into. You'll find the groove. And eventually get to the part where there's sound. There we go. So I'm going to turn up the volume here. Now, what you want to do is you want to control the input level of the. Let me close this while it's playing so we can get disturbed. So on the Zoom TAC, I'm going to hit the knob until both of the input lights are on. And that way, when I control it, I'm doing both at the same time. And remember, the goal here is the highest level you can get without clipping, for sure, right? You don't want to turn it all the way down. Then you're losing some potential dynamic range there. But you don't want to crank it all the way up either, because then it distorts. So you want to be somewhere where it's as hot as you can get it, but you want to be well away from that distortion. So I would shoot for the loud stuff kind of kissing the yellow. Okay? And then you should be safe. Okay? And do this on one of the loud songs, right? Don't do this on the quietest song on the whole album. Pick the loudest song on the whole album to do this, okay? Great, so I've got the level going. We're good to go. So now I've got to start this over now. And this is the part where you can, if you're going to scratch the record, this is where it's going to happen, okay? Is when you lift this thing off, okay? So the trick here is you got to get your finger. There's a reason why this is curved. Is it fit your finger perfectly. So you're just going to get your finger in here, and you're going to just lift perfectly straight up, okay? Don't pinch it and then move it. That's a surefire way of sliding. Just hold your finger underneath, lift it straight up.
Why didn't you just turn it off?
Yeah. Well, because now I wasn't recording. I just had the record enabled so I could see the level.
Or why don't you just
Oh,
start
no, I
the,
mean,
the
like,
record?
Because it slows down and people stop.
Oh, really? So stressful.
So
It is if you're away from it.
yeah. Well, and some turntables will have a mechanism by which it'll lift the needle for you.
Yeah.
And there's a little lever you can pull it. The one over there does that. Or there's even a button push stuff for you. But this one doesn't, so you just gotta be careful. Okay? So again, don't pinch it like this and move it. Just stick your finger under, position your finger under and just lift it straight up.
Can I just let it finish playing all the way? And
Yeah,
then-
eventually you will. But this part you won't, because you're gonna have to play first a little bit of it in order to set your level. Right? Okay?
What if you just take the level to
That's
your
stressful.
So here's what I'm going to do. Now that I know this, I've got the level set, everything's good. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the metronome settings since we don't need the metronome ticking while this is going. And then I'm just going to hit record, and here it's rolling. It's no big whoop. We're going to edit out all this stuff later. And now I can start this thing over again.
Yeah, now I remember it is
Yep.
20
Yeah. Close the lid very gently. And now you just let it roll. Okay?
So you have to do.
There's no way to do this any faster than real time. You just got to play the whole thing in.
You just jam the hell
Oh,
out.
Totally okay with that.
Okay?
Jam out.
No,
Yeah.
it's that right.
No, it's gonna be the Woodstock one.
Oh, I guess.
So what's going to happen is, it's slowly this arm's going to slowly start drifting towards the center, and it starts going faster as it gets closer to the center. So it might take 10 minutes to move an inch, but it's going to go much faster than that as it gets closer because the circle's getting smaller, right? So eventually it'll get to the center, and it'll get into this kind of endless loop where it'll fall into this groove, and that groove will just not go on forever. It'll just stay stuck in there.
It's that sound that I think we've all heard that, right? There's like a sound I hear.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just, anyway, so it'll get there eventually.
So that-
And when that happens, don't stop Logic. Just keep Logic rolling away. And you're just going to go in here and again pick up your needle. Okay. Stop the turntable. Flip it over. Okay, Logic is rolling still, which is fine. It's quite happily to keep sampling silence for us. Start it back up again. And you're going
Good one.
to drop the needle again. Pick up the other side. Okay? And now you're going to let that play all the way through. Okay? Until it gets all the way to the end. Right? And so when that's done, then you're going to lift it up, turn it off, and now you're done. You put your record away. Now let me show you how to put a record away. Because this seems like it should be simple, but you'd be surprised. Okay? So there's usually, hopefully, there's going to have a little sleeve, plastic bag, and you can slide it in there. Or sometimes this will be paper. Now, instinct is going to tell you to grab the part where it opens, and then slide that in.
Oh.
That's a bad idea because then when you take this off the shelf, it falls out. Okay? What you really want to do is take the open part, and there's different schools tools let I do this. I prefer to just have that pointing up. Then you can slide that in. If you try to do it that way, it'll just bunch up. Okay. This is just an awful bit bad, but the point is to slide it in so that
Magic.
the open side is actually still protected, so that it doesn't fly out. It does fly out, at least it's still got sleeve on it.
I was totally gonna do it.
Yeah.
That's
You absolutely.
you had that look in your eye. I was like, Corey's totally gonna put this in. Okay, so we got tons of records in here. Some are fascinating. There's
There's Star Wars.
some cool film scores. There's a lot of operas. There's some other just kind of random. There's like a German beer drinking music album.
Yes.
That's a lot of fun.
I just see AS.
So anyway,
You have one that has a lot of.
You want me to stop Logic?
yeah. So ultimately, you might try a few just to hear, because part of this process is to clean it up, right? The other thing when you're done, guys, make sure you just put this cap back on. Be careful when you're doing it. Don't like scrub up against the needle.
Is there any quantization that happens during this process, or am I just controlling the process?
Well, I mean, it is sampling. So the computer is sampling it.
So is there then what I've now recorded is different from what is playing?
Yeah, I mean, there is going to be a certain amount of difference.
Is there any settings that I can maximize or minimize that?
No, I mean, that's part of digital. There's always going to be a little bit of error. I mean, I had Logic set to 24-bit, and I did it at 44.1 kilohertz, which, because ultimately we're going to put this on CD, so I didn't see any point in sampling any higher than that. Because if you do sample higher than that, you have to convert down, and then you're going to have to deal with some aliasing at that point. So I didn't see any point in doing it higher. Some people would argue against that theory, but whatever. So once you got that, you save it, right? And now you're done. All right. So now we can set our clock ahead to an hour later after you've got this thing all done.
Time passes.
Right? And what'll happen is you should have a logic session on your hard drive now, and if you did it as a folder as opposed to a package like I told you to, you can go to your audio files folder, and you should see the audio. And which one do you suppose is the one that I want to use? Probably that 1.03 gigabyte one. That one's probably the one that has the whole album, because there's a couple of misfires I had there, right, from the tests I did. Okay, so ultimately you can open up Logic file and do a quick offline bounce of the thing and get it if you want, but why do that when you can just get the audio out of it? Okay, all you're looking for is the audio file. So there it is. That 1.03 gigabytes is probably the one I'm looking for. So I'm going to pull up Triumph here, and I'll go ahead and put that in here. That's not exactly what I wanted to do. I hate that feature. Is there a way to turn that feature off in Yosemite? That full screen with the green button thingy?
I haven't found a way. I'm sure that if I type in a terminal command,
All right.
I can make it.
So here we go. So I'm going to here's my Music Man thing. Now I'm going to drag that into a new layer. And there it is. There's the whole album. Okay? And we can take a quick listen here. Yeah. All right.
What is that?
What?
The overture.
No, well, like, what was that? Did that not sound weird?
Good one.
What, the crackle?
No, like all of that. Did you not just hear that?
That's normal for them.
This was done in the 60s, and they were playing around with stereo a little bit on this album. So there's some funky stereo effects they're trying to do to like make it feel like you're in the theater or something.
Yeah,
I don't know,
it was
but
like an echo or like a delay or like
I don't know.
I don't know.
So, all right, here's what you want to do. You want to start organizing this stuff. So what you're going to do is putting the separate tracks into their own layers. Okay. So I'm going to start by you're just going to select the first track. How do you know? Well, eventually it's going to drop out to silence. Right there, it dropped out to silence. That's probably the end of track 1. We can verify that. There's a bit of reverb tail there. I better make sure I catch that. So I'm going to adjust my capture range there. Okay. This particular album, on the first track or band they call it, of the record, there's actually 3 songs: the overture and then the other 2, and they're all linked together as one thing. So that's why there was a singing at the end there. So now that you've got that selected, you're going to go to your actions here, and you're going to go to Edit. And you want to say New Layer from Selection Range.
New layer from what?
From Selection Range. So what you're saying is, take this little bit that I've selected and put it onto a new layer.
And that's under what window?
Action, Edit. Okay, so you do that, and it makes you a new layer, and that new layer should now have just that track on it. Yeah? And you could now call it something if you wanted to put a little label. Let me get my metric thing. Let's just see what it says. So this is main title. It also has Rock Island and Iowa Stubborn. And I'm going to precede that with a 0-1, so I know that's track 1. Okay. So now we'll go back to our master layer here. I'll turn off the other one, and we'll find our next little song. So I'm imagining it starts about there.
Well, either you're closing your eyes to a situation
Okay.
you do not wish to acknowledge, or you are not aware of the caliber of disaster indicated by the presence of a pool table in your community.
Oh, you know, that's me, actually.
You got the monitor and the source on at the same time.
No, it's because I'm doing this weird soundflower thing so that you guys can hear it in the video. Let me see if I can fix that. Built-in. Well, I'll turn that off for now, actually. You'll hear it off the mic. Let me go back to Triumph and set its outputs to something else. Let's see, built-in output.
Well, either you're closing your eyes
There we
to a
go.
situation you do not wish to acknowledge.
Okay, so let's find the end of this.
Are you doing track and track, not first half of vinyl? Like you're doing each?
Yeah, because ultimately this is going to be a CD, and CDs only have one side. Okay. So,
Well, either you're closing.
okay, you don't need to be real. Don't be real tight in the selection here. Make sure you give yourself plenty of room, and you'll see why in a moment. Okay, that's good. So action, edit, new layer from selection range. And this one is going to be 02. You got trouble. Right here. Our children's children gonna have trouble. Trouble. All right, so now we're going to repeat. Get the next one.
Mama, a man with a suitcase followed me home. Oh, I never saw him. What stubbornness, and your library full of books.
Okay, so let's see what this one is. Yeah, okay, so that's the next one. Okay, so this selection, edit, new layer from selection range. And this will be, I'm just going to, for sake of time, just start numbering them. I'll turn that off. And next one, whoa, go back.
What was it called? Anti-what? That side counterweight.
Anti-skid. New layer from selection range. Go. This will be 03. Okay, so you're going to repeat this then for every track. Okay, as you put it on a new layer. And then eventually, once you get through them all, you can turn off that first one, and then you'll have them all separated. Okay. So now what you want to do is just kind of one at a time here. You can go in and start editing these. So I'm just going to trim the tops and tails off of this. So I'll just take this and put that there, drag that in. Oh, I could even go here. There we go. Now go to the end. Trim that to about there. All right, now we'll go to You Got Trouble.
Well, either you're closing your eyes to a situation you do not.
All right. To about there. See what I'm doing? Yeah, ready with me? All right, we'll put this one here.
Mama, a man with... Ready for the books.
Okay, don't cut off the reverb tails.
It's a design choice, Jason. Didn't like the reverb.
I guess I don't need that layer, do I? Okay, so once you've got that done, and you've got everything trimmed just right, you can, now what you're going to do is go ahead and get rid of this layer here. Actually, well, I don't know, what happens if you leave it on? Let me just see. Yeah, we better get rid of it. Okay, so you can go ahead and delete that for now. So now what you should have is a layer for each track on the whole recording, okay? And then this action is going to be organize. So actions, organize, and you want to select this add tracks to layers and arrange. What this is going to do is put CD track markers at the beginning and end of each of these layers. And then it's going to scrub them in time so that they become sequential in time. Because right now they're all overlapping on top of each other. Okay?
What is that command called?
Add tracks to layers and arrange. So you want to add track markers to the layers and then arrange them in order.
And that clicking that does that.
Yep. So when I click it, watch what happens. Okay, so now they're not overlapping, and I now have these tracks. So main title, You Got Trouble, and the one that I never actually... Oh wait, I lost it somewhere. Oh, it's over here, yeah. So now you can see now that they're all at different times. So they start at a different time. And that will be used ultimately when you play this, when you bring this to a CD, they will start at these times. Okay? And at that point, if you wanted to, you could rearrange the order. Like if you don't like this, you can move the layers around in order and do a rearrange. Right? You could delete those track points over here, just delete them, and then you could do that action over again. So add tracks and arrange, and it'll span them again in a different order. But now that we got that, now we can actually start trying to clean this thing up. Okay, so this is where your master layer comes in. We want to get rid of some of this noise. There are some options here. So, but you're going to go over to your audio units pane here, and I'm going to organize by manufacturer just so you can see what's there. The Apple ones won't really help you, but audiophile, they ship with, let's see, used to anyway. I don't know if this FHX is what it is or not. Waves. Oh yeah, the isotope. So it ships with this thing called isotope restoration. And we can look at it. We have something better than that though. So you're just going to take that and you're going to drag it onto the master layer. And then if you hit the little arrow next to it, it'll come up. And here you can get rid of clicks and hums and noise. And
Where was that again?
under audio units, okay. If you organize by manufacturer, at the bottom there's isotope, and you want isotope restoration. As I say, this is not the best one we have, but it is a thing. So let's see if I can find a click somewhere.
Treat you when we treat you, which we may not do at all. There's an Iowa kind, the special chip on the shoulder, attitude we've never been without.
Yeah, you hear those clicks? So I'm going to turn enable declicking. Start turning this up, see if I can get rid of these.
Shoulder attitude we've never been without.
Yeah, you got rid of them, see?
The special chip on the shoulder, attitude we've never been without.
Oh, that one's bigger. Yep, that one's bigger. I'll have to increase the amount here. You got rid of the first one pretty good, though. That's a tough one, isn't it? There we go. That's better. Okay. Yeah.
I need to see this.
Okay. This isn't even the good one. So this is the free one you get with Triumph. So you got clicks, you got hums, you got clips, you got noise. Okay. So we're doing clicks first. So I just turned on clicking, and then the amount is essentially a threshold. So the higher you do it, the more aggressive it's going to be, and you lose fidelity to a certain extent. So you want to set it to the lowest level you can get while still getting all the stuff you want to get rid of. And I'm just looking at the overview here, and the biggest one we had was that one we just got rid of. So I just skipped to that part and made sure we can get that. The quality, this has to do with the shape of the filters it uses to get rid of it. So you can play with that a little bit if you're not getting the kind of results you want. And I can just put this into loop mode. So if I just do this selection and say playback, loop selection,
When we treat you, which we may not do at all.
then I can just kind of hear this over and over again.
The special chip on the shoulder, attitude we've never. Special chip on the shoulder, attitude we've never been without.
Every click and then do it.
No, this is global. So that's why you do it on the master layer.
Aha.
Because it's a real-time plugin that applies to everything. Okay? So I just went and found the worst click I could see, and I figured out how to get rid of that. If I can get rid of that one, I can get rid of all of them. Okay?
But if
Have you ever had a situation where you couldn't get rid of all?
Yeah, if it's really bad, sometimes getting rid of them means destroying the audio too much, and you just have to say, well, I'm going to have to live with a few of them.
I got a bunch of these.
Yeah. But I think for the filters are getting pretty sophisticated these days, though. So you don't run into that so much anymore.
So do you ever? Is it like a gate where if you set the threshold too high, you start losing sound altogether?
Yeah, it'll start getting other stuff too.
Okay.
So that's why I say you want to make sure that that amount is not set higher than you need it to be.
But if you set it for the worst thing, then would it potentially take the quieter thing and then make it disappear? Like instead of taking.
Yeah, if it can get the big one, it'll get the little ones. But yeah, you're being more aggressive there. And if you're saying, well, it's only on that one track where I have that big one, and all the other ones are little, at that point, that's when you can start doing separate processing for each layer. So you can put this plugin on each layer and do it for each track independently.
Is that a natural failure on the recording, like as it transitions from vinyl to, or is it like?
That's just a speck of dust that was on the record, or a little.
Yeah, and your needle drag it in.
Yeah.
I guess we just clean it and re-record it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it. To save yourself some time, get that record as clean as you can get it. Get as much dust out of it as you can, because little imperfections will make these sounds.
Can you do it? Let's say you have a really bad one. Can you do it by spot? You know, just where you see the actual noise.
You can. You could go in and just draw it out, but it would take you forever. Let's see if I can show you.
Some records are worth forever.
So you could go in here, and if you wanted to, and I'm just kind of going to zoom in as much as I can. Let's see if I can. So if you can zoom down to the sample level, right now you're actually seeing the samples. You could then take this little pencil tool, and you could attempt to divine how this really should look.
Stop it. Are you serious?
That's awesome.
Stop it. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
What? But you, oh no.
So, I mean, I'm guessing here.
Oh no.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, so
You're literally editing.
that's gonna sound good.
Okay, so, but you have to zoom in quite a bit to get that. So now I'll go back. I'll turn off that pencil tool, and then I'll zoom out. We'll see what we have.
Stop this madness.
What?
Stop
Okay.
this. Oh my god.
Oops.
We've never been without.
That we recall.
Yeah, you can hear as a space, but that's okay. It's
Yeah.
better than hearing that pop.
Yeah.
Wait, is that the same plugin though?
No, that's just me manipulating the raw sample data.
Okay, so you literally just watched that waveform really, really closely.
Yeah, and redrew it.
That's stupid.
I drew what I think it. I tried to look at where it ended off before the click happened and where it ended up, and I tried to envision where the pattern of the wave that would be there.
Okay.
But that's, you got to really want it to do it every single artifact that way. That'll take you the rest of your life in some cases. But
Well, I mean, people get paid to do this, right?
sure, I mean that is a way to do it.
I'll do that for some dollars.
You know, it's not. You got to pay me a lot of money to
That sounds
to do that. But
this is actually the first thing in middle class that I would do for a profession.
okay. Okay, so so that gets rid of the clicks. There's also some noise here that you're going to get a little bit, and we can try and get rid of some of that now too.
I have a question.
Yes.
That started really dramatic. So can you just like go back over like going to each menu to put the plugin on the master layer?
Yeah, you just drag it on. So,
Okay.
well, you go down here to your plugins.
Right.
So here they are, and you just take one, and you just drag it onto the master layer,
Okay.
and it
So
shows up
master
there in the
layer
list.
is just for
Just for plugins. That's all it does.
Okay.
Okay, so let's get rid of the noise now. What noise are you talking about, Jason? Well, oops. Let's see. Let's go and find the end of this. Actually, I'm going to turn off my loop mode. So,
out of your nose. You're out.
That noise. Okay, I had to turn it up pretty good for you to hear it.
Dither.
No, this is analog noise.
Wrong.
You can't dither that?
No.
So I'm going to turn on noise reduction. And here you're setting a threshold. Now what I like to do is I'll set the suppression all the way up and then the threshold all the way down. And then you move the threshold until the noise goes away. And you want the threshold as low as you can get it, because the higher you set the threshold, the more good stuff it's going to start taking. So, but with the suppression all the way down and the threshold pretty low, I'm more or less getting rid of it. And you can listen to noise only. That's what it's getting rid of. Okay? And this is now the result. So now that I know that I've got the threshold right, now I can take the suppression amount down. So if I take it all the way out, you can say, you can hear it. There it is. And I'll drag it up until, you know, there's a little bit of rumbling there. But again, this is very low level. I mean, I had to crank the volume for you to even hear this. So that's good. I'll call that ready. And now we should have it be pretty clean.
Either you're closing your eyes to a situation you do not wish to acknowledge, or you are not aware of the caliber of disaster indicated by the presence of a pool table in your community. Well, you got trouble, my friend. Right here, I say.
Now you can hear some of the artifacts of the processing now. So I'm being a little too
I
aggressive.
consider that the hours I spend with a cue in my hand are golden. Help me cultivate horse sense and a cool head and a keen eye. Did you ever take and try to give an ironclad leave to yourself?
So I know to get it all the way out, I've got to be that aggressive. But now that I've got it at normal listening level, I can play with it a little bit and reduce it.
Call that sloth. The first big step.
See, now there's the noise. And I can realize that in reality, at listening level, I don't need to suppress it anywhere near that much. Right? I can just barely bring it in.
Well, either you're closing your eyes to a situation you do not wish to acknowledge,
and that's
or you
acceptable.
Are not aware of the caliber of disaster
So,
by the presence of a...
now we got rid of most of the clicks, we got rid of most of the noise, and it's hunky-dory. Right? Let me show you the other plugins. That's the isotope. That's the free one. And that comes with Triumph. However, if you want to spend a bit more money, you can get some really much more sophisticated plugins to do this. And we have the Waves Diamond bundle, which includes the Waves restoration plugins.
Which only works when you have the key plugged in.
Yeah. So you have to have the little blue dongles plugged in to these computers to do that. You can install this on your own laptop if you want, but it just won't work unless you're in this room with that dongle plugged in. And every other time it'll nag you. So... you know, it's up to you. But if you go again, filter by manufacturer and go to Waves, at the end you've got X click, X crackle, X hum, X noise, and Z noise. Z noise is a little bit more sophisticated version of X noise. So let's try X click. I got some clicks in here. So here's X click, and I'll go back to that really nasty one. And let's do our little selection again.
Older attitude we've never been without. That we
Right? So it's showing the waveform, and again, what you're going to do is set a threshold here. And every time you see a red line pop up, that's a click it got rid of. So it's getting rid of all kinds of ones we can't even hear.
Older attitude we've never been without. That we recall. Older attitude we've never been without. That we recall. Older attitude we've never been without. That we recall. Older attitude we've never been without. That we recall. Older attitude we've never been without. That we recall. Older attitude we've never been without. That we recall. Older attitude we've never been without.
That distortion there.
Older attitude we've never
Yeah.
been without.
So this is a good example of where you may want to go in and draw that big one out because it's so much louder than the other ones.
Which one?
Older attitude
This
we've
tall one.
never been
I mean, I undid the drawing that I did before.
Older attitude we've never
If you do difference, this is all the stuff it's getting rid of. And you can hear some of it is actually the song. And this is where you can start messing with the shape. And you might be able to get rid of some of the good stuff that way.
That sound brings back memories.
Yeah.
never been without.
So I may ultimately want to just say, you know what,
We've never
I'll just draw that other big one out, and then I can lower my threshold, and then not have to do it. Yeah. Okay. So there's your click, and then you can run the noise. So X noise would be, and there's a stereo and mono versions. That's why there's an M or an S, and this is we want the stereo version. X noise works a little bit differently than the previous noise one. So what you want to do here is you need to capture a noise print. So in other words, you need to tell the plugin what the noise is. So you find a little spot where it's just noise and select that and put it put Triumph into loop mode, so it said loop selection. And then you're gonna, where it says noise profile over here, you want to hit this learn button. And there it's just listening to the noise. And you just need to listen to it for a second, and then you can turn it off. And so it's captured now, a pattern of what we're calling noise. Okay? And now that it knows that, we can start getting rid of it. So again, I set the reduction all the way up.
Maybe you're closing your eyes to a situation you do not wish to acknowledge. Or you are not aware
And there's, if I set the threshold all the way up, then it starts getting rid of a lot of stuff.
Well, you got trouble, my friend. Right here, I say trouble right here in River City. Why, sure, I'm a...
You go to difference and hear what it's getting rid of. You hear it starting to get rid of some of his words. So yeah, about 2.
Say it takes judgment, brains,
And then the
maturity,
reduction
score in a bottom-line game, I say that any boo
doesn't need to be
can
much.
shove a ball in a pocket. And I call that sloth. The first big step on the road to the depths of degradation.
And if you want to hear it, A/B it, you just uncheck the enabled.
Then beer from a bottle. And the next
So there it
thing
is
you
with
know,
the
your
noise.
son is playing for money
And here it is
in
without.
soup.
There's not. This is a pretty clean record. I mean, so your mileage may vary there, but you may need to get more aggressive with it. So.
It's too late to change my major.
So the challenge here is, how do you get rid of the noise without getting rid of the good stuff? And you can get so aggressive with the noise reduction that you ultimately take out the song, right? And so don't do that. All right, but anyway, once you've done all this, we got it all done. And yeah, this is a part of it. You don't necessarily want to just totally get rid of everything, because getting rid of everything sometimes gets rid of some good stuff too. So you're trying to find the balance of what amount of noise is acceptable, and to what extent do I need to get rid of it? So what?
That noise is kind of like if I bought this and I heard that noise or whatever, it'd be like it shows the quality of which it was before. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So to some extent, you may not want to get rid of all of it.
It's like that in the style. I don't know.
This isotope restoration also has a theoretical clip undo, or it'll attempt to fix clip distortion, which is sketchy. But if you end up with some distortion on your recording or something, you might be able to work with that and get rid of it. Distortion's tough. The analog distortion is easier for this thing to get out of with it, where digital distortion is impossible. But if it's analog distortion, sometimes it can work. Okay. In other words, distortion that happened either in the recording or in the record or in the record player or something before it was converted to digital. Okay, so once this is done and you've got it all organized, you've got the noise done the way you want it, and you've got the tracks done, everything's ready. At this point, you can burn it. Okay, so we're going to go to the file, burn disk. It's going to say, give me a disk, and you got to put one in, and it'll burn it. And this will be a full-on CD master red book standard thing. Oh, the other thing, you can go in and over here in the metadata pane, you can filter this to audio CD, and it gives the UPC, but you can go to CD text, and here's where you can put in, you know, the name of the title of the album and stuff. And then if they have a text-enabled CD player, it'll show up in there. And you can do that for each layer as well. So I think, let's see. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it'll just use whatever the name of the layer is as the track name. Okay, but you can put that in there. And so then the other thing you can do is make a DDP file set, which is the thing you would ultimately send off to the duplication house. So to do that, you got to render, and you want to render the entire workspace because you've got it all laid out and timed out right. You go to next. This is what format? Well, you don't want AIFF, you want DDP. And you can say include the CD text. You know, the MD5 checksum, this is the ability, this is like a checksum value that they can use to verify that they actually got it all from you. It's a little bit of math they can run to see if you know, if the last bit actually showed up. You can do that if you want. If they need it, you can do that. So you can click to include CD text in it. Hit next. Sampling rate, it's going to force you to do 44.1 because that's the standard for CD. If you want to put a dither on there for some reason, if you feel like maybe you were mastering this at 24-bit and then you were going to do a conversion, you could do that. And if you're like the total purist and you're worried about that 32-bit conversion that's going on inside, you could put the dither on there too. It's really up to you. In this case, I would maybe not want to do it because of all that noise reduction processing you're doing. Sometimes something like a dither could potentially mess up the tails of some of that noise reduction you're doing. Because remember, the noise reduction is trying to take stuff and stuff it down into that range where you can't hear it anymore, and now you're going to introduce dither to manipulate it. So I would be somewhat suspicious of dither here, but you know, you can try it if you want. It might work fine. So hit next, and then it's just like, where do you want to put it? Save to, what's it going to call it? And you'll get a DDP file set. And I'll show you what that looks like. So we did the original cast recording for 101 Dalmatians. And I believe I made a DDP file set somewhere. Let's see. Where did I put it? I wonder if it's on my other drive. It might be on that. Maybe I can see. It's like a folder that has a bunch of little files in it, but you can load it up in Triumph and play it like it's a CD. Okay, and there are DDP file players as well. Like you can download these programs that will play a DDP file. But ultimately, the DDP file is really what you just, instead of sending the place a CD, you send them a DDP file set, and they're happier with that. You don't have to drop a CD in the mail. You can just upload it to their server. I mean, there are companies, there are, you know, online firms that just do this. Okay, here we go. Final renders. There's my DDP. So here's the folder, and here's what it has. It's got this binary file, and then it's got an image, and that's where the actual audio is, the PQ codes, all this kind of stuff. None of which you can do much with until you go into Triumph and you go to Open Tool. So you go to Triumph menu, and there's this thing for Open Tool, and there's a DDP file player that comes with Triumph. Okay, so you open this up, and it's going to say, you really want to do this? It say, yeah, and then you go find your DDP file set. There it is. I hit the folder. I hit Choose, and it says, hey, great, look at that. There you go. Here's your thing, and you can hit play. Here's our little cast recording. Track 1, track 2.
Hello out there. Anything about
Right?
He hooked right up.
So this is a way to just test it. See if it's all good to go. Okay, so that's what I would like you to do. I would like you to pick a record, any record you want. It could be one of ours, it could be one of yours, anything. and whatever you want, any record you want. It could be a brand new one if you want. I mean,
How are we turning this into exactly?
you were going to upload the DDP file set to Walrus. Okay? Because, these days, some laptops don't even have CD burners anymore. So it's, if you want to have the experience of burning the CD, you can. You can do it right within Triumph. You just have to do it on a computer that has a... But if you give me a CD, I'll lose it. So I want you to upload a DDP file set. It's that folder that gets rendered.
I
Okay?
think I'm confused about the DDP file set. Like, what is the difference between uploading that and just uploading like separate?
Because with the DDP file set comes all of the track information, as far as all of the track markers and the spaces between the tracks on the CD, all the CD text, any of the what they call the PQ subcodes, which are unique identifiers for your CD for the purposes of mass producing and tracking and inventory systems. And so yes, you could just upload a bunch of WAV files to a company and they would sort it out for you, but you'd have to pay them a little bit extra money to do all the organization for you.
What's DDP stand for?
I don't know.
Like,
Digital Disk Protocol, maybe? My best guess. That sounds good. So anyway, get a record, any old record you want. If you really want to play around with the noise reduction, pick an old cruddy noisy run.
This description protocol.
Yep. Disk description protocol. There you go. Or a nice one, whatever you. It doesn't really matter. And digitize it into the computer, capture it into the computer, pull it into Triumph, organize it into one layer per track. Okay, then do that arrange thing, so it arranges them in time. Do the noise reduction and click reduction, all kind of clean it up, make it sound as good as you can, and then burn it to a DDP file set, and upload that DDP file set folder to Walrus.
Do a button.
Yeah.
Test on this.
Yeah.
How many?
If you can.
Is there a certain number of tracks you want?
The whole thing. The whole album. Okay?
So don't pick enough.
Yeah, unless you want to do a really long one. Right? Okay.
Let's make a rule that once you're done using the record player and getting it to Logic, move to a different computer. So
Yeah, absolutely. So don't monopolize the machine. So we have two workstations there that have the record players, okay? This one works a little bit differently, so I wouldn't try to use this one. It patches differently.
And I just know they had an issue last year. So.
But yeah, so go in and get your record and then get it on your hard drive and move, right? So yeah, if you can turn this in by Monday, that'd be awesome. If for some reason the lab blows up or something, we can't make that happen. If something in the world, we can. I'm just going to give you something else to do on Monday. So,
Great.
It's not that I need it by Monday. It's that I'm going to give you something else to do on Monday. So I'd like you to be done with this.
Where is the action to add tracks to layers and arrange?
So that is going to be in. You go to Actions, Edit,
Oh, it's a edit.
and then it's going to be. Organize. Sorry, Edit is where you do the new layer from selection range.
Mm-hmm.
Organize is where you do the tracks. So you go Organize, add tracks to layers, and arrange.
Okay, and the second question I have is when you say that the plugins are global, do you mean like on a track basis, or like they're global to like the whole album?
They will apply to the whole album.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so anything you put on the master layer, that process gets applied to every track.
But only because it's the master layer. You could
Right.
apply a plugin to an individual layer and only affect one track.
Exactly.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so if you're finding that you've got one particular track that is way noisier than the other ones, and do you really want to have that much aggressive noise reduction on all those other tracks and mess them up? Maybe not. So at that point you might decide, well, I'm just going to do this on a per track basis.
When you got the edit tool, all you did was just zoom in, and that's just the default thing.
Yeah, so once you zoom in far enough, it'll turn on that pencil. That pencil won't turn on until you're zoomed way in.
I just want to add from this screen right here.
So you got to go way in, and then eventually that thing turns on. Right there it'll turn on. Now you can take it and you can draw the wave if you want.
It's insane. Okay. Also, the green button, option click.
Option click and it does what it used to do?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so have fun with this. You don't have to do it in here either. If you've got your own record player at home and want to put it into you do it on your own, that's fine too. You don't have to do it here. And you don't have to, if you can use the isotope restoration is fine if that comes with Triumph. But if you'd like to play with the Waves ones, they're a bit more sophisticated. You can come and work on the workstation in here. That's cool. Whatever you want to do.
I've got a major problem. My
Okay.
Triumph I downloaded is freezing my computer, and it's not functioning.
It could be because your computer's a little bit older, isn't it?